Welcome to the Tom Golly official podcast. With me today is a awesome friend of mine. He actually co-wrote a song with me a few years back called His Name is Jesus. He is a songwriter, an artist. He has a group called Tiger Run.
Yes.
So definitely got to check those music out. But man, thank you for being here, man. It's awesome.
Thanks for having me, man.
This is the Daniel read. Though his social media stuff says Daniel can't read, and I think that's not true.
Well, when I was like, you probably went to a big high school too, like kind of big.
Yeah, more or less, yeah.
My high school wasn't huge, but it was when we had to walk across the stage to get our diploma.
Yeah.
Nobody knew our names, so we just had to write our name and like give it to the person, and they would announce our name as we're walking across. And so my middle name is Brock, and so I just really like thought about it, and I was like, I'm gonna just put Daniel can't read and have them say that when I walk across stage. And
that is genius.
So I just kind of always stuck.
Man, my thing was, man, I used to get in trouble a lot because, with my last name, because teachers would almost always pronounce it wrong.
Really?
And yeah, it was insane. And and it still happens to this day. But what was interesting was, I grew up around a lot of fishermen and really gruff people that if they weren't, if they ever missed an opportunity to say something snarky or wise guy-ish, like, it'd be a bad day. So, I just sort of grew up around that. So if a teacher would get it wrong, I'd be like, for instance, they'd say Golly or Jolly. And I'd be like, well, that college education's coming in handy, isn't it? And I mean, I get jettisoned out of classes so fast.
Yeah.
But I started to discover, like, hey, this is a good thing. If I can say something snarky to the teacher and he kicks me out in ninth period, I get to go home.
Yeah.
Because what am I going to do?
Yeah. Perfect.
But yeah, it's definitely interesting with the last name thing, how easy people can either get it wrong, or how even a big high school, how sometimes the principal have no idea who you even are, so
Totally.
they'll believe what the last name is.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That just kind of stuck as your.
That's just, I just always, like my email address at the time, like when kids started getting email addresses, it was like, at least the kids I rolled around with were like, it was like Bible verses, like some real important Bible verse. And so like I was like, well, I'm going to have, my email address at the time was Proverbs 2:5, like 25:16, which is, if you come across honey, eat just enough, because too much of it will make you vomit.
Oh, wow.
That was the Bible verse that I like chose as my email address. Like people would be like, what is that verse? And I was like, go look it up. It's powerful.
I'll bet. Gosh. Speaking of vomiting, man, I got royally ill on a run a couple of months ago. Just ate a bad piece of cheese. Dude, don't eat wrapped cheese from a gas station ever. Apparently, if it's not kept refrigerated, it goes bad and you won't even know it until it hits your belly. But yeah, like you said, powerful isn't even the word for the violence in which that cheese decided to leave my body. And my band to this day still, like, they make fun of me because they were just like, dude, I know you love like bands, like you love like screamo rock sometimes, but like you didn't have to prove you could do it, because it was just like, oh, like really, really violent. And it's, man, that's so powerful is accurate for such a thing.
Yeah.
But man, so how long you've been living in Nashville for?
Since 2014.
And when you grew up where?
In Seattle area,
okay.
Seattle, Washington
West
area.
Coast, yeah.
West Coast.
Cool. So I'm from the far east, you're from the far west.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of met in the middle.
And so I grew up in like punk bands and that kind of stuff, but like being like really far away from any sort of music industry.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody thinks that Seattle's a music town because we had Nirvana and like we had some other ones, Pearl Jam. Like it was all like stuff that was like before it was like my time to like play music kind of thing. But like we weren't a music industry town. Just some good bands came out of there or whatever.
Right.
So
well, I mean, you look at the genres that came out of there. I mean, and I mean, it just seems like an angry place to live. It's raining all the time. It's gray.
Terrible.
So
I didn't like
when
it.
that angsty music was
Yeah.
all about it, it just seemed to be
Yeah.
like, well, who's more miserable than them? You know?
And then, but when I was in high school, I mean, our music wasn't angsty. It was like, I remember one of the first songs I wrote was called "I Wish I Had a Girlfriend." So it was just like terrible pop punk music.
I have a friend of mine. He used to, every time he liked a girl, he'd go home and write a song about her, and they usually weren't very good.
Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah. I mean, he showed me a demo one time, and it's just like, one of them was like, Brazilian girl, Brazilian girl, I just want to know you. It's like, what is this?
That's like Flight of the Conchords.
Exactly. It's just literally funny.
But I never had it like an example of like, oh, well, you can actually go and try and do music somewhere. So after high school, I was like, well, I guess I have to go get a real job or whatever, and like go to college. And nobody told me that I didn't have to do that. So I went to college to like work in churches. I went to college like to get a Bible degree.
Okay.
And I mean, I went to Edmonton, Alberta in Canada for college, just because it was you didn't have to do math up there. So I was like, well,
that explains a lot.
I was like, dude, awesome.
Yeah. So you don't have to do math in Canadian colleges. That explains a ton.
Canadian Bible colleges. I don't know if all the colleges.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm well, you know, the joke that just came to mind is, well, no wonder they can't put 2 and 2 together. So, no, but you know, actually, it's interesting. One of the most brilliant people I've ever met was Elias Dummer, who's from Canada.
Dude, he's a nerd about like all that stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm still looking up words he said on that podcast, man. You know,
yeah, he's super smart.
So you moved to Nashville in 2014.
Yeah.
Okay.
I moved here. I was in a band, and we were touring, but like every time we would start a tour or every time we would end a tour, just because we were from Seattle, it was like, all right, let's start a tour. Let's drive for 16 hours and then play the first show. Or like, all right, we ended a tour. Let's drive home for 20 hours. Like, it was just always exhausting. And so then I was like, well, I'm just going to move to Nashville, and then we'll have like maybe two different home bases. That was the intent.
Yeah.
And 2014 was like, man, was like a really good year for us. Like we never had a management, never had booking.
What band was it?
It was called Lybecker.
Lybecker, okay.
Never had anything that would like help us get ahead. And yet we were able to, in 2014, we were on a tour with like Building 429 and Hawk Nelson and Family Force 5. And we played the main stage at like every festival that year. And it was like, dude, things are really looking good for us.
Yep.
And then like it was right after that summer, I don't know, things just didn't work out at all for us. We were just like, we went back to like playing, like it was like pulling teeth booking youth groups that didn't really want to see us play anyway.
It's weird how that happens, man. You know, I kind of had that in 2019.
Yeah.
Like I was main stage on a ton of these festivals. Granted, I was I'm sure Lybecker was early too.
Yeah.
You know, and it's great that you're up there, but like, hey, no one's here yet kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, it's like, and you think, hey, it's coming, it's happening.
Yeah.
And then like, well, for me, COVID followed it, but I've definitely seen how, you know, I think we all go into those kind of events thinking like, oh, this is gonna get us respect because we're sharing the stage with those people. People are gonna value us more, and when it really doesn't do that, it's like, well, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
You know, or you know, maybe you hope, hey, I'm gonna get to meet some of these bands and talk to them, and they don't come out of their bus until they play, and then they get right back on it, and you never even get to say hello.
Yeah.
It's like, man, this wasn't worth playing for free and driving 20 hours and paying our own lodging. And maybe I should have done this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's definitely a little disheartening. So what did you guys do next? What was the plan?
Well, then we were supposed to, at the beginning of that year, we were supposed to record an album, and then we got into the studio and we were like, oh, man, there was just a little bit of like us not knowing what we wanted to do,
Yeah.
what we wanted to do. And so we're getting, and I feel really bad because we had like, he's turning out to be like like he's a great producer, but like we wasted his time. And
Who's that?
it was Jeff Duncan.
Jeff Duncan.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was like, dude, Jeff is awesome. And yet we're sitting in the studio being like, I don't like this. I don't like that. And it was us, you know, like just being like, I don't like these songs at all that we like. Because what we would do, we were just a touring band. And so every once in a while we'd be like, this album is getting boring for us to play. So let's just book some time and we'll write some songs before that studio time.
Yeah.
That's how we always wrote.
Yeah.
It was always like,
and it's tough to write for some people, and I don't. Maybe you agree with this. For me, it's definitely hard to write when I don't feel like I got something I need to tell the world.
Yeah, and we were only like, we just loved to play. That was our whole band. We loved to play. We loved to be out there. Like we did all have hearts for, the youth. We were a youth group band. We just wanted to like go and like hang out and be buds with everybody we were playing for. And so we always needed music. And so we would like book studio time and then we would write leading up to it. So when we went in with Jeff Duncan, we were like, I don't like any of these songs that we don't have anything to say. So we actually we actually just told him like, hey, sorry we wasted your time. We're going to just kind of go into this season of like that big tour and then the summer festival season. We'll just get through it performing what we already have. And then we'll re-record songs next year. And we went back to the producer we had worked with before, which was, at the time, he didn't, nothing had come for this guy either, but Colby Wedgeworth, we were just working with him. And so we went back to Colby and we had written like 6 songs, 7 songs that we were like, okay, this is who we want to be. This is awesome. Yeah. And we went and recorded them and we were like, dude, this is as good as it gets. But we didn't know, we didn't know what we were doing. We just, I mean, we were not.
Does anybody?
Well, we were too cool for the Christian industry. Yep. And not nearly cool enough for the general market. Okay. So we were just sitting in this like middle land, but we liked what we were doing. Yeah. And right when we finished those songs, I got a text message on we finished a tour and I got a text message. I was like, hey, do you guys have any new music? And we just finished these songs. We had just gotten the masters like maybe a day before. And I didn't know whose number this was. So I was just like, here you go. Here's our 6 new songs. And the next song, that number texted me back and was like, dude, one of your songs is on hold for a movie. And I was like, who is this? What are you talking about? I don't even know what that is. Like we had never heard of sync music or anything like that. And this guy who ended up being a buddy who was also in a band from like a different part of the country, but we just had played a couple shows together. He was like, dude, I sent your music to a sync company in LA because they were looking for like your guys' sound anyway. And
that's awesome.
And we didn't get that movie, but that company ended up getting us. And again, we had never written for sync. We didn't know what that was. Right. But that company ended up getting us like they started being like, can we push this? And we're like, yeah, I don't know what that means, but do it. And it would be like, hey, your song is on, like this song is on a Teen Mom episode and this song is on a Vanderpump Rules episode. And like, we were like, what is going on? Like, that's awesome. And it wasn't like, it didn't make a ton of money, but it was like, wow, validation. Yeah. This is cool.
I mean, it's crazy how Sync is, I can't even name the band, but I know there was one band that got their song placed on, I think it was like like Madden football. Yeah. Like it was in one of their rotations of music and like the band blew up because of it. It's crazy what sync can do. And
it is. You know, it hasn't happened for me, but it is crazy what it does for other people.
No, I mean, I've heard of people getting record deals for like CCM because they're doing sync under like a different name. Yeah. And that's generating a lot of money. Yeah. Which like, man, sign me up to figure out how to do that. Yeah. You know? Because that's that seems to be I mean, I think if you really like writing songs, and particularly maybe like 1.5 to 2 minute songs these days, it's
Yep.
probably a great outlet for it, you know?
Yeah, and so at the time, our album, we loved it, and like, I think that, like, other people loved it, but it just never really got us. We were always like, "Well, let's not go and pursue labels or
Yeah,
management. Let's let them come to us."
right.
Nobody ever came knocking
Well,
down our doors.
that's the interesting thing. A lot of people, and were you given that advice to let them come to you?
I think we just kind of, being from Seattle, we were just kind of like, let's just play the role of like I want to have them. I want to have something to give them if they come
Right.
to us, and
Yeah.
I want to prove ourselves.
Yeah.
I think it was around the time that Macklemore was doing the same thing. Like, Macklemore blew up, and it was all on his own.
Yeah.
He didn't need labels, so we were kind of going on
Well,
that.
it's definitely a wild thing. I mean, like, I've had from the day I started, I had lots of people like, yeah, man, let labels come to you, let people come to you, all that kind of thing. And it's like, okay, cool. But when that never happens, and then, you run into other artists, other bands, people who have made it, or at least, are a lot further along than you are as far as where you want to be. They'll be surprised. Like, wait, you've sat down with the labels. No, I haven't.
Yeah,
And they're just like, well, why not? I don't understand. It's like, I don't know either.
yeah.
I'm getting the opportunities. I'm getting the, we're getting the streams. I mean, I don't get it either. What is it?
Yeah. And
And
you always go, "Well, what is it?" And you start speculating, and you start, like, picking apart your band and your artistry, and going, well, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. And, like, what it came down to, like, now being, like, removed from it, I just think it just never worked out. Like, I think because what we were doing was we toured constantly.
Mm.
We were paying our own bills. We had, like, an actual thing going.
Yeah.
We had sold, like, this was right in between, like, album sales were dying, but Spotify streams were starting,
Yeah.
and we were right in that, like, dead space. Like, we were also, like, alternative bands in the Christian industry were thriving, and then now they're non-existent.
Yeah.
We were like that, like, purgatory of right in between that space. So it just never really worked out for us.
Well, I think the challenge probably, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like for me, I've thought of completely just giving, like, not, I don't want to call it giving up, because it's not really giving up. It's just making the choice to go, you know what? I'm going to put this energy somewhere else. Because I've come to a realization where, and people don't seem to get this. And I wish that every person who walks up to your merch table and goes, $25 for a t-shirt and walks away, understood that, listen, we're doing something because we believe in the message, which is ultimately a message of Christ.
Mhm.
And, if the amount of effort that we put into this, from, pursuing the craft of maybe being a better musician, better songwriter, the business side of it, all of it, if we were to put that exact same energy into something else, we could probably be millionaires. Like, so your band, based on what you're telling me, you had a good thing going. Had that been a startup of of a non-music business, maybe you were selling products or
Yeah.
something, you all would probably have, beautiful houses and, driving cars that people are jealous of. And
Yeah.
people don't seem to understand how much work goes
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah.
And
And
it's definitely hard to just lay it down.
yeah, and I think that we just learned. We were so, we were punk kids from
Yeah.
the Northwest. Like, we were so hard-headed that we just had to learn the hard way so many times, and it
Uh,
just wasted time. If we would have
Yeah.
known everything we knew at the end of our career, if we would have known that at the beginning, I think we would have.
What's the biggest thing you would have done different?
Um, well, I think, for one thing, this sync company in LA was like, "Hey, we wanna kind of, like, help you guys learn this and, like, maybe take that route." And we were still like, "No, we have a message we wanna do, and we have this and that." And it was like, but no fruit was coming from what we were doing.
Yeah.
And we should have just been like, "Yeah, teach us the ways." Like, so that's one thing, like, because it was around the same time that we got into sync. It's the same time that like Sam Tenez got into sync and Dustin Burnett, like, and it was like, we should have kind of gone that route,
right?
Of like learning about this new way of doing music, because instead we were like, well, let's keep writing like watered down, not that cool, see, like like this middle ground music. I don't know. I think that I would have changed, and also we didn't really know about streaming at all. We like stayed away from streaming for a while.
Well, I mean, going back, I mean, so 2014-ish is when you moved here. So that's like streaming kind of was this monster that showed up super quick.
I know.
Between, I'd say, like 2015, 16, 17 is when it blew up, like, oh, nope, taken over. Because I remember I wrote and recorded my first EP the end of 2015, early 2016. And I was thinking, cool, man, I'm going to sell my CD. You know, people are going to buy my CD. I'm going to print up CDs and give them away. Not just and I think streaming wasn't on my radar either. To where, like, I'll never forget, like, I went from having that EP where all my songs a year later had less than 100 streams each on Spotify. Like, no one was finding it. No one was listening to it. I didn't even know how do you promote this? I don't even know what this is, you know? Yeah. And it wasn't until, I met, Jorge Lopez. He's played drums for like so many different people. Currently plays a lot with Adam Agee. You know, he's become like literally like my Obi-Wan Kenobi. Man, by the way, we've been praying for him. His mom is on a ventilator right now with complications of COVID. So, and I know by the time this episode comes out, you know, hopefully we'll be hearing about how she's healed. But George or Jorge, whatever you want to call him. I never call him George Lopez anymore because everyone's like, oh, the guy from TV. No, not the guy from TV. Come on, seriously. But he had kind of like, dude, do you even know like what you should be doing with streaming? I'm like, no. And if it was him and Dustin Fennison that were like mentors on like how important streaming was. They're like, are you playlisting? I don't know what that is. So those guys taught me it, and then George, he produced a single for me. I did a Michael Farron song called "Fighting for Us." And that song right out the gate, it was on some big, huge playlists, and it was like, and then people are finding me, and I'm like, oh, this, since then, I remember a time when around that season where, I put this EP out. Now I'm like, well, I need people to hear it. So how do I do this? And I did the old school thing. I went to the K-Love Fan Awards, walked around the Opryland Hotel for 2 days. Nonstop with a backpack, just handing out CDs, talking to people, walking up. Oh, hey, he's like, you Jeremy Camp fan, huh? Looking at their shirts, and just like, hey, I'm an artist too, and maybe you might like this here, giving out CDs. Yeah. Not realizing that most of the people there didn't drive. They flew in and they're staying at the Opryland Hotel. They don't have a car. They're not gonna be able to listen to this thing. And by the time they get home, they're gonna forget all about this guy they met randomly, right? Yep. So now, again, it's like we talk about like, well, what would you do different? Well, if I was to go back in time, I'd find myself and go, okay, here's what you're going to do, buddy. You're going to walk around with a Bluetooth speaker and or headphones and go, hey, I'm an artist. Would you give one of my songs a listen? Let me know what you think about it. Right? Let them hear that one song, even if it's 10 seconds, whatever it is. If they like it, awesome. Hey, can we connect on social media? Hand them a tablet. And go, here, put your name, like, or here's how the way you can, you can find me or like me, or, hey, will you follow me on social media? Boom. I'll give you a CD if you do it. Not that they care about the CD, but it's a way to connect with those people. What I did was I gave out a CD with all my social information thinking they'll hit me up. I gave out 200 CDs. Do you know how many people friended me? Because I went home and watched and wrote everything down. I'm a note taker like that, a stats guy. Two people.
Okay.
2.
Yeah.
And then one local like people this woman, Becky, and her husband, no pun intended.
Yeah.
But she, like, they've been big supporters of mine. So I basically gained 3 fans from 200 CDs in 2 days of walking around. Totally blew that one, you know? And it's like, had I focused on the streaming aspect and the social media aspect of this in a correct fashion, you know, maybe the outcome of that would have been different. But it's crazy how you look back, right? And it's like, I think in that season, a lot of us who were trying to come up in that like mid 2000s, you know, we still had that old school way of like, this is the way it's supposed to be done. And there was a time when that was right. But now the way the world's changed, it's crazy, you know?
Yeah. So that's like, I think that it was just, I mean, I love that season. I talked to the other guys, like, man, that was such a great chapter. And like, I just take away, it was a bummer that we never really quote unquote made it, but we had the best time. So
that's, you know, I think that's it. That like, I'm trying to get to that place of, you know, not, you know, and it's hard as a competitive person to, you know, not so much be focusing on what you know, what you didn't get out of something, but what you got out of it. And I think just, you know, it's kind of like it, for instance, if you were in the Super Bowl and you lost the Super Bowl, you might be hurting for a while, but then eventually you get grateful that, hey, I have this amazing career. I got to play in the big game. You know, we got to do that, but it takes time. And I don't think I'm quite there yet, because I haven't given up yet. And I haven't lost that chip on my shoulder that says I could still make this what I believe it can be.
yeah.
And, you know, and I do think that there's, you know, I think that it's amazing that you have found a place to be grateful for it and realize, hey, it was the greatest time, because I can totally identify.
Yeah. And I think that like, even after, so we just kind of, at one point we just, realized like, this isn't we're not breaking as a band. Like, we're not breaking out. So like, it's probably best for us to move in our in like new directions and see. And like, at that point I was bummed, and I was trying to figure out how, you know, how can I still make this work? Like, and I remember one night telling my wife, like, I think maybe I want to start my own project. And she was like, don't put me through that again. Like, because it's like, you tried for years, and like, don't put me through that again. And I was bummed, like, man, I still feel like there's this fire in me that like, I want to get out there. And
well, you're a creator, of course. You know?
And so I was able to, it took a while, but like, able to step back and go, well, what are some other things I can do as a creative that I can still feel like I'm a part of this, like this big thing called music. And so I started, you know, so that's when I started being like, well, I can write sync. Like, it worked for a little bit with Lybecker. And so I started writing sync, and it's like, you know, everybody's going after, it's the same thing with like, no matter where you're at in the music industry, like, you're going after whatever the big whale is. And like, so like in sync, it's like, obviously, man, I would love like an Apple commercial, or like like a, you know, Tesla commercial, if they even do those, I don't know. But like something big like that, like a big ad campaign.
Yeah, Tesla does commercials. They're called Elon Musk tweets.
But like I still want like that big thing, that big whale of an advertisement. But like, man, I've been able to have like little tiny successes, you know, like I looked at my ASCAP, and my ASCAP checks do not pay my bills at all. But like,
I got one for 82 cents once. I don't know why.
So I looked at my statement even just last night, and I was like, dude, one of my songs was on a Seahawks game. I didn't even know that. Pay me $4, but I'm so stoked. like, wow. Cause I'm a Seahawks fan. So like, that meant a lot to me, you know, like, I have like little tiny successes, and it's just about, and like, I had to change my perspective completely. Cause like, I started having a chip on my shoulder. Like, man, I gave, especially like to God, like, God, I gave you 8 years of really feeling like I was doing what you called me to do. and I know that the singer went through this too. Like, we really feel like we were sleeping on floors. We were, we were putting a lot like relationships in jeopardy. We were doing what we thought we were doing what we thought was the Lord's work, and it's like, actually, you were a little bit, you were you were doing your own self-worth work, like you might have been having the mask of doing it for God, but like you were also doing it for yourself too, even if your intentions were right.
Oh,
and,
sure.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But like, I just had to change my perspective and be like, I'm grateful for that time. Like, I'm grateful for all the times of dumpster diving for pizza behind Little Caesars. Like, those stories made me. You know that song that's like 100 bad days make 100 bad stories. 100 bad. Like, dude, I'm grateful for all those times.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for $4 for having a song that I wrote being a Seahawks game. Like,
man,
$4.
it's crazy because like for me it was never I mean, listen, I have a nickname amongst a couple of friends of mine. They call me the Green Hammer. Okay. And what that means is that's so it actually kind of started from Dave Portnoy. We were watching him on this video of him, and he has these like green dead blow hammers, and like he was waving one around and he hit himself in the head. It was funny. But he does that. He would, hold those up. And what that has to do with is when you look at a stock candlestick chart, a green hammer is it literally looks like a green Thor hammer. It's when basically when a stock stops losing money and starts making money. It's basically the bulls beat the bears and things start taking off on a stock. And that's what that's what you want to see. That's good news. That means you're making a profit. So I'm always good at making money it's just like if I need it, I'll find a way to get it, So the nickname, they call me the Green Hammer. It's kind of funny. But my motivations with Christian music was I didn't care about the money.
Mm-hmm.
It was never about that. But it had to become that to sustain it because I never realized how expensive this world is. Coming to Nashville and finding out, wait, it costs how much per song for something high quality?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I thought that's how much an album costs.
Mm-hmm.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So then it becomes a so and then even the idea of like I never wanted to sell merch. I just figured I'll just have some CDs. Doesn't matter. Not here to get people's money. So then it's like it's just an interesting thing because now here you are trying to do this thing. It's way more expensive than you ever thought it was. And then money gets in the way a lot of times where it's like, hey, I'd love to come to your church in Minnesota and play a show, but I got to pay a band. It's fuel. There's lodging. Mm-hmm. And, I'm taking a day away from something that could be paying my bills. So mm-hmm. I need to make up for that in some way. And it just, that has, the money aspect has certainly gotten in the way of what, what the goal was to go out and just impact people the same way that some of this music impacted me.
Yeah.
That was really, because for me, and again, a lot of people don't realize this, and maybe I should have told more of my story when I first launched as an artist of why I do this. I just thought, well, I get plenty of opportunities to explain this to people, and most people don't ask,
Yeah.
But for me, it was like, hey, I was introduced to Jesus, and then here was these songs that I was given to listen to, and it was like, oh yeah, hey, they're singing about that pastor was talking about this. Yeah, this is a song about that, Mm-hmm. Or there was times where I'm just like, man, I'm new in the Lord, and I'm feeling this certain way. And like there's a couple of MercyMe tunes from their early days that like were given to me that was like, yes, this is exactly what this feels like. Yeah. And even on the hard days where I'm like, screw this Christian crap. I want to go do this thing that I used to do, Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, hey, this song kind of talks about that struggle and, oh, all right, I'm not alone. Like, mm-hmm. Okay, they get it. Okay. Yeah. I'm you know what? But they get it, and their song talks about how, they've chosen a better way. So, Yeah, it's probably a good idea. I'm just gonna choose the better way.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, that music influenced and helped me so much that I'm like, when it was clear for me that God called me to get out and do this thing, it was like, I just want that. That's the fruit. That's the check that I get when someone tells me, hey man, this song that you put out or this song you wrote, man, it changed me. It helped me. Like that's all I've ever wanted to do.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge though, is like when you want to get to the level that we're trying to get, or we tried to get to, it's like there's like this money barrier somehow where it's like you don't have enough of it to get there. Or it's just one of those things where it's, or not enough of it is coming in to sustain you on your journey. And that's the tough part. Like, I think that it's definitely tough to, go and like you're talking about dumpster diving for pizza. Like for me, the equivalent of that hardship is like, man, I moved to Nashville. I had zero debt, zero. I didn't have $1 on a credit card, man. I was good, had good income, no debt. Here I am in year 7 of my Nashville journey. And, I got, I got like 30 grand or more in credit card debt, toward investing in myself, believing that it's gonna happen. One radio hit, one record deal, one advance is gonna clear that up, something.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and the conversation, it's crazy for me to have this conversation with God where it's like, hey, I think it might be time to wrap this up, Lord. So just, can I do that?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, cool. I'm excited to wrap it up. And then, ding, 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 like show gets booked. Someone, hey, can you play this festival? We'll pay you this much. Hey, can you play our event? We'll pay you this much. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
I guess I can't wrap it up.
Yeah.
So I think that's a tough challenge, is like, just to figure out like, is this producing what I wanted it to? And I think that with the sync thing, like you're talking about it, that definitely is, it's certainly a nice encouraging sign, whether it's, a $4 check or someone messaging you going, man, thank you for that song,
Yeah. I think like I put all my chips into music, and then since then I've diversified and been like, I feel like Adam Sandler and Happy Gilmore a lot, where like he keeps being like, oh, I'm not a golfer, I'm a hockey player. Like he tells that to everybody. And like, dude, I do merch. Like I sell t-shirts.
Yeah. So you do merch for MercyMe now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And like,
how long have you been doing that?
Since the band broke up. So
how'd that start?
Well, I went out one tour with Ryan Stevenson playing guitar.
Okay.
I was playing guitar for Ryan Stevenson, and he was opening for MercyMe. And this, I'm still used to being in a van. Like, I've never been on a bus before, that kind of thing. And so, when you're in a band, it's like all hands on deck. Like, well, yes, I play, but I also do this. I also do that.
Oh, I know.
I wear 100 hats on tour. So when I got out there and all I was having to do was play guitar, that was literally all I was doing. Then I started hanging out with the merch guys, because that's what I'm used to, is hanging out at the merch table.
Yeah.
And so then after the tour, I knew I was only playing with Ryan that one tour. It was like, it was kind of an unspoken thing where it's like, hey man, come play guitar for me while you figure out.
Yeah.
He didn't say that, but that's what it was. Like, hey man, I got one tour where I have an extra bus spot if you want to come play guitar and figure out your life. And
what a great place to figure out your life is on a bunk that's the size of a coffin.
Yeah. Well, I was grateful. I mean, it was just so rad being out there. And while I was out there, their merch guy was like, hey man, if you like after this tour, like come do merch with me. And I was like, man, I still want to play. Like I love playing.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'll do it for one tour. And that was about 4 years ago.
Man, I back in the day, my wife and I would go every time MercyMe came within within 4 hours of the Long Island, New York, we would drive and go see. And man, we'd always just customary buy merch to support, and stuff. And there was a guy by the name of Marlon that was the merch guy then. I don't know if he's still around or anything.
No, I don't know.
Yeah, but it's amazing to see how, like, you'll see the same, sometimes see the same merch guy there. A year later, same guy.
And that's what I love. And that's where I started diversifying and being like, God is not using me in music. I'm using music to enjoy God. I enjoy doing music, and God delights in that. And I delight in God in that. So I started just like changing my attitude and being like, I can also enjoy God at the merch table. Like there are a lot of people who volunteer at merch, and they'll text me when we go through town and be like, hey, do you need a volunteer this week? And it's like, absolutely, come on down. Like I've gained a community of other people. And in the process, I actually got to write on the MercyMe's new album.
Yeah, I saw that, man. And I'll be honest with you, part of me hates you for that. That's not fair. No,
well, but it was but that came from not being like, well, I'm a writer. Let me know if you ever need to write, and I'll write with you. It was like, no, I'm out here constantly writing. I write because any chance I get, I'm, over by the guitar world, stealing your guitars and writing songs. And it just kind of happened. And it was like,
yeah, how did that happen? I would love to know, because I'm taking notes. How do you get to write with one of the top people in the industry?
That song came out because I was Sam and I, so Bart's son Sam would come out on tour, and he was like, yeah, I want to do music. I was like, dude, let's write. And so there was one time where it was like, let's write a song for Sync. Let's just that's what I know, so let's try and write a song for Sync. And we had come up with a chorus. No, first of all, we had written before. We had written another song. And people in the band had heard it and were like, this is pretty good, man.
Yeah.
And it was like, cool, thanks, dude. I do write. I write music. I'm not just a merch guy.
Right.
And then I had written a song with 10th Ave because they were on tour. And that got on their album, and they were like, cool, dude.
Yeah.
Getting it.
Wasn't it, who were your co-writers on that? That was, because I remember seeing a post. Wasn't that a song you wrote with
Mike Donahue and Carter Froge?
Carter, right.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Dude, Carter writes some fire, bro.
Yeah, dude. He's awesome.
Yeah, I've tried to make it work to get to write with him, and I'm hoping we still can make it happen, but it's he's just everything I've heard him be on is awesome, man.
He's so awesome,
dude.
And he's getting busy too. It's
that's why it's been tough to work with him.
I get with people, and then I never get to get with them again.
Oh yeah, it happens.
But
that's why you fight so hard to get a good song.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, come on, oh man.
But so I had written with Sam before, and so then it was like, well, dude, let's do this again. I like your voice. Your voice is sick. So then we wrote. We started this other song, and in this process, every once in a while, I'll just send Bart songs. I never hear back from him. I'll just send him songs that I've written or worked on.
I may or may not have done the same thing.
Yeah, and I never really work, never get a response. But then I wrote this song with his son. It was just we hadn't fleshed it out. It was just a start. It was like a verse and a chorus or something like that. And even the verse, we ended up reworking the verse. But so then 5 minutes after writing with him, I'm driving home, not thinking about anything, and Bart hits me up and goes, "Dude, that song is sick. You should put it on the MercyMe album." I was like, "Did I send Bart a song?" I didn't know. I didn't put two and two together that he's talking about the song we just wrote 5 minutes before. He's like, "For real, that song is amazing. What would you think about putting it on the MercyMe album?" I was like, "Dude, you don't have to tell me. Just be like, hey, we're gonna use that song." I'm a nobody, so I would be flattered if you put this song on the album, but I'm not gonna expect that.
Right.
And so then he was like, later on tour, like a week later, he's like, I'm serious, man. Like, I'd love to flesh that song out with you. It's like, by all means, man, let's get together and do that. And then, of course, like, that's what I've always wanted. I've always wanted to write with Bart to see or I always want to write with people and be like, how do you?
Yeah. What's his process? Is it, I've heard his process is kind of like, he's not like a lot of songwriters where we're like, hey, let's go get in a room and get on a Google Doc. Is that his process as well?
Well, he did. He had like he was like, I think we should change the verse melody. And so he came in with this new verse melody. And then we just kind of fleshed out the lyrics. And it was like, dude, obviously there's a reason why you are in the world you're in. It's because like you took that song to another level. Like, I thought it was good. Yeah. But then it was like, wow, this song. Like,
well, he strikes me as a guy who probably is never not listening to music.
Yeah.
So he's probably like an encyclopedia of just like, you know, everything. So he's probably able to just hodgepodge pieces and parts of different things that he's listened to in his life and go, here's something totally new no one's ever really heard, you know? And that's pretty, because, I mean, dude, what I love hearing how, like, like the songwriting especially, it's like they find a very fresh way to do something old, and they'll go do an old school way of something that's new. It's just so unique. It's got to be. I mean, it had to be like mind blowing to kind of see him in his element like that.
Yeah, it was awesome for sure. So, yeah, I mean, but then you know, as a songwriter, you're like, well, that's gonna open doors, and it's like, here I am, still stoked on. Yeah, $4 from a Seahawks game.
Right. Now that song, was that song put on the radio?
It's currently on the radio.
Currently on the radio. Yeah. So I mean,
I don't know how it'll do. I mean, it's. I have low I always am just like, I'm just grateful for the ride. I have to fight to keep the attitude.
This podcast is brought to you in part by Tone Junkie TV, your best source for Kemper, Helix, and impulse response profiles. Check them out on YouTube, all social media at Tone Junkie TV. Also check them on the web store at tonejunkiestore.com. Use promo code Golly to get 50% off site-wide. That's right, 50% off site-wide, tonejunkiestore.com.
Of just being grateful. Of just being,
that's it. Yeah.
Like, of just being like, the fact that I have that song out there is good enough. And no matter what, like, wow. Yeah. And so I hope it does good, honestly, for them more than for me, because for me, it's like, that's huge. Like, I hope I get another opportunity like that. Yeah. But I'm grateful for that one. But for them, I hope it does well.
I mean, for me, like, you know, I think for me, I think just having something I've done acknowledged by someone like him as really good would be enough. But to be like, dude, this is sick, I want to use it. Whoa, dude. Like, I'm sorry, I'd have a hard time not like humble bragging, you know, like, well, you know, fun fact, my song is on a MercyMe song. Yeah. You know, but man, that's just got to be pretty wild. And man, so obviously you get the MercyMe cut. Now, what's I guess, you know, so you get the MercyMe cut. Like, what's, you know, what is that? How has that changed anything for you? Has it opened doors? Has it got you anywhere?
No, but I think that comes down to, it's probably just me being like, not selling myself as well as other people do. I always see these pictures of people like in the studio writing some
sure, like, yeah.
And it's not like I'm against that. I'm just like, I never think to do that stuff. So I'm just not really like that good at being like, I gotta get out there and sell myself. Instead, it goes back to the Lybecker days of being like, wait for them to come to me, man.
Dude, I was kind of the same way with, like, I mean, I've shared the stage with a lot of people, and I know a lot of really well-known people in the industry. I mean, you run into them at a coffee place sometimes, and it's like, hey, you end up catching up, talking, whatever. Dude, most of these people, like, people wouldn't believe me that I know them because I've never been like, hey, let's do a selfie.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been like, had this rule of like, I'm not going to do the selfie thing because, like, that anyone can do that. And I'd rather be the guy that people feel like, oh man, cool. He's not trying to use me, because I'm not trying to use anyone.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, and that's the frustrating thing is, like, I've had that like thrown on me, like, oh, the Lybecker band is always just trying to get in these doors, and it's like,
yeah.
I don't know how you got that from us, but that wasn't us at all.
Right.
And so I think that it affected me in a negative way, to where now I'm like, I'm never going to go and push myself.
Yeah.
I'm never going to go and try and get in rooms.
Isn't that the worst?
That affected me really bad.
Yeah, but that's the worst, when you hear things like that are just like, who said that?
How did you get that from us? Like, that's not us.
I mean,
I
I get similar things where, like, I mean, again, I've had people on the podcast who have come on after we've had a conversation, but they said yes to the podcast, and then the day before it are like, you know what, man? I've seen your social media post recently, which is like something maybe I posted as a joke or like as just an observational, like, well, isn't this kind of annoying when that happens? Yeah. And they're like, I just don't want to get into a debate. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, why do people think I'm this argumentative, belligerent idiot when it's that baffles me. I've also had people tell me things like, oh yeah, I heard you're difficult to deal with, like work with. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What? Where would you have gotten that idea? Please tell me. Yeah. Like, and the only thing I ever hear about me that's true is people are like, dude, he's really intense. Yeah, I am. I'm from New York. I'm a creative. I mean, and I'm just I'm a fire hydrant of how I'm feeling. So if I'm in a good mood, you're gonna get happy. If I'm kind of mad, you're kind of gonna know it. Like, it's just, I'm intense. And if I'm talking about something I'm passionate about, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go in deep, and that's fine. I don't think being intense is a bad thing at all. If anything, it's carried me through a lot of things. But that's the worst, isn't it? Like I said, just having people.
It sucks because I am just sitting here like, man, I'd love to get in more rooms, but like having that, like, one person 6 years ago say, oh, the Lybecker dudes are like just always salesmen trying to get in rooms and stuff like that. Having that be said about me, makes me be like, oh, I mean, if I'm supposed to be in a room with somebody, it'll happen. And it's like, well, then it's just me selling merch, waiting for another opportunity,
And now now let me ask you this. Now, because I only know obviously that you had a cut on that record because you posted about it, and honestly, dude, when it was kind of wild, man, because when I read that post and I saw that, all I remember is the one time we wrote together. And I remember you were in the corner, kind of, we were all spread out in this room. It's probably the furthest away I've ever been from people when I've written a song. But
it's pre-COVID, we were just being.
Yeah, but you were kind of in the corner of the room, just kind of, and honestly, like, you were kind of quiet most of the right, kind of agreeing or going, nah, to some stuff, which is fine. And we're trying to dig out this bridge, and all of a sudden you had this big smile, and you're like, how about this? And it was like, yeah, it's perfect. And like, man, like, you're definitely and all I thought of was the big smile that you had when it was right, and and we played through the song a couple of times, and you just had this like, we wrote a song, this is killer. Like, I just remember that smile, and I just thought of that when I read the post, going like, man, this couldn't happen to a nicer guy, man.
Oh, dude, thanks, man.
Like, I was just so happy for you.
Thanks,
and because believe me, there's people that I know that when good things happen to them, I'm like, they don't deserve it. But man, you just, and also I just become a big fan of people. Like we walked past each other once, about a year later at a Monster Jam. I remember texting you going, hey, I just saw you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it was such a sea of people.
Yeah.
But seeing you with your son and you know, like, I don't like to bother people, even if they're my friend. When you're with your family, out with mine, hey, that's about it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Unless we're like super tight.
That's
like,
what I do too. Yeah.
I'm not, I don't want to take up your time. You probably don't want to take up mine. And you're in dad mode anyway.
Yeah.
So stay there. It's cool. I just acknowledge that I saw you. But like, see you with your family was like, that's a good dude. You can just tell. You know what I'm saying? You tell when someone's there, you're protecting your family.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
You're enjoying that he's enjoying it.
Yeah,
it's like,
totally.
It was just, so it's all that stuff to be, I mean, again, granted, I don't know you to a T, but we've been around around each other a little bit and talked enough. And it's like, man, it's a good dude. And again, I was just super, super proud, a little jealous, little like, I mean, I hate Hunter Hayes too, for the same reason. He got to play mandolin. I went to a thing and he played, it was the Stephen Curtis Chapman. He had this thing called Sam's Place at the Ryman. And he had various artists from Christian country, and Hunter Hayes played that night too. And Hunter Hayes got to come out and play mandolin, and I'm just like, with MercyMe, and I'm like,
yeah,
I get to do something, MercyMe.
Well, and
I don't really hate him, by the way, for the listeners or the viewers. I don't really hate him. It's a joke. Relax.
Well, and I think that like, I'm not saying you. I'm saying like if people just saw that like some no-name dude got to write on a MercyMe album, what they wouldn't see is that I work with them.
Yeah,
like I served that band for 4 years.
Oh yeah,
you know, like
yeah.
So it's like one, yeah, like I think that the only rights that I've had, like album cuts or whatever, have come from like actually being like around those people enough to where
just organic.
Like,
yeah,
I didn't get, you know, I don't have some like dadager or momager that's out there being like, hey, you shot my son, like some rich dude being like,
you didn't beg your way in, you didn't buy your way in. You just went and
had relationships with people.
Had relationships, and you know, before you know it, it just sort of happened, or organically, and that's you know, that's something that I would love to see happen in my life a little more, and that's something I've learned too. Like I've always saw the world, and as an entrepreneur, I see things very transactional. It's like, well, you know, how can I benefit you?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, it's kind of like they say, there's a saying that says that if you can't get a seat at the table, serve water. So I've always looked for opportunities where I can't get a seat at the table. Hey, can I come in? How can I come in and serve water? And, you know, it's tough when all you really do is sing. You don't play the instruments, you know, you don't do anything. It's very hard to find what can I offer that, you know, can at least get me to where, you know, maybe, you know, like I said, maybe a seat can open up, you know, and I'm not in a position of life to go do merch for somebody.
Yeah.
You know, I wish that would be a lot of fun, but, you know, it's just one of those things where, it can be challenging, I think. And, I think the way you've gone about it it's kind of like, it almost comes across like I kind of fell and landed on a record, you know?
Yeah. And that's completely just because I don't know how to sell myself. So that's what comes across. And that is a bummer, is like, cause like it's hard for me to be like, no, I've put my work in, you know what I'm saying? Because like, I don't know. I just don't know how to sell myself. So I think that sometimes it could come across as like, oh, Dan, like he just kind of got some stuff handed to him. And it's like, no, man, I've definitely put my work in. I knew what I was doing. When I wrote with Sam.
Yeah.
I knew that was the only way I was going to actually get somebody listening to my songs.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you just gotta, I don't know. It's hard to sell yourself. There's like this fine line of like, how do you sell yourself without being, you know, a douchebag?
Right.
Or how do you, you know, I don't know. It's hard.
I get it, because I mean, I'm on the other end of the spectrum. I do know how to sell myself. Honestly, I'm better at selling others. I mean, I was working with a young artist for probably about 8 months, and selling her essentially. I mean, not or marketing her, I should really say. It's a better word. But marketing her was way easier because you can't contact a church and go, dude, I'm so awesome. Me and my band are amazing. You're gonna love us. But I can go, hey, I have this artist. She works hard. She's got an amazing story, blah, blah, blah. Like you could say that and it carries way more weight. So it's very challenging to sell yourself too. Just because it's like, well, you have to find very unique ways to not blow yourself up like I'm great, but you have to kind of more, I find, at least for me, it was like as an artist, selling the message has been like, hey, we have this message. This is what we have to say.
Yeah.
This is what we bring. These are some of the things that we do during the show that people seem to like. Like we have to push hard with that stuff. But yeah, sell it. But as far as like songwrites, things like that, trying to get in the door with people, I'm on the other end of it where like I've learned the hard way. And in this town, learning the hard way sucks because it takes years for anyone to finally go, you know what? Yeah, maybe it was just a rookie move on his part. Maybe he's not just a pushy guy, but like, because I was always the type where it's like, hey, man, I'd love to write with you. And they go, hey, well, sorry, I don't have time. And it's hard not to be like, well, hey, man, can we make time? Or, hey, I'm like, you're just like, what can I do to change your mind? And it's like, they don't like that, and it's like, well, there's got to be something. What can I do? And then, of course, then there's the other side of it where it's like, hey, I want to write with you. And they're like, well, cool. You're not with a label. You don't have a pub deal. You don't do any sync. So I would need you to pay me X amount of dollars to come in and write, which I understand fully. But I also don't quite get that either. It's like, but what if kind of thing. I almost kind of want to, like in that kind of scenario, I'd almost be like, okay, cool. Well, if I'm going to pay you, fine. Not going to put your name on it. You pay you to write the song with me. It's my song, 100%. Ghostwrite. You know what I mean? But they don't like that either. So it's like a challenging thing. I think just the business side of the writing part of it is so hard to navigate. And I think that the way that you've taken more of the relational approach and it's worked for you.
Kind of.
I mean,
like I think that if anybody was gonna like, if you were gonna put monetary value on it, it's like, well, this is a glorified hobby, but I'm fine with that. You know? Like,
no, and I would be too. It's just it's tough because, some of the big names and some of the really really great writers, they're
great at selling themselves.
They're great at selling themselves, and you know what? The money matters. The money matters to them because this is for them. This is what they do. And I respect that fully. It's just tough though. Could be like, well, I want to work with you. I would kill to work with you.
Everybody's different, and it is weird. I mean, there are people that I'm sure are crushing it financially in this market that I'm like, dude, I can write the same song you just wrote. Like, I can, and and I don't know how you're making money at doing this, but.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. I feel like on the artist end of it, I mean, the only ones making money are the ones who are out touring and doing a ton of shows, or who are like MercyMe level, where they can probably do a quarter of the shows that like maybe a C-level band might do, and and they'll make 10 times as much, just because they're giants. And it's huge, and that's amazing.
Yeah,
but. And it's so weird though how like, you look at a chart and like like for instance, let's say MercyMe was number 1, right? And let's say they're going out and they can probably, I've seen certain cities where they fill stadiums, and then you'll get like, maybe like number 3 on the radio chart can barely put 400 people in a church. It's so weird that drop off in fan base and how that is, And it's just a so strange industry to operate in and to on all ends of it,
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying about I can write that same song. It's just very dysfunctional in the fact that like there are people that have been able to sell themselves, and it's like they're no different than me who's selling merch, and yet the like you like if you're looking at both of us, you're going, well, who would I as an artist, who would I rather write with? This guy who's like really well, he sells himself, he's
Yeah.
crushing it, or MercyMe's merch guy, and it's like, well, I'm gonna write with the dude who has sold himself really well.
Now, have you had it, like, obviously you posted publicly that you were a writer on that song and everything. Have you had to deal with like people trying to be like, hey man, I know could you like send my song to Bart, or have you had to deal with that?
Yeah, I deal with it every day at the merch table too.
Oh,
People
seriously?
being like, oh, send these lyrics to Bart. And it's hard, because like I look at what I do even with merch as like ministry, and so it's like, what do you do with that?
Yeah, what do you do with that?
So everything's different. I mean, sometimes I legitimately am handed stuff and I'll forget about it until the weekend's over.
Ugh,
I'll
yeah.
be like, sorry, I didn't get that to Bart,
Yeah.
Or sometimes I'll just like lay it where I know they're walking past, kind of thing. But I don't know. It's hard.
Have you, I mean, so like, does he ever actually listen? Like, if you were to give this stuff, does he even have time for that?
I have no idea.
Probably not. Yeah.
I don't know.
Because here's what happens, unfortunately, and I feel terrible for some of these guys. Because one thing I got to say, I've never been the type to run up and be like, "Here's my CD." I don't do that. But you can't help but hear stories. Like, there was a band years ago. I ended up working with those guys a little bit, my first EP. But there were guys in a band called We As Human. And what happened was someone they know gave John Cooper their CD. Like, hey, you got to listen to this. And and John Cooper has admitted, like, yeah, people send me stuff or they'll hand me stuff at a show. I'll get on the bus and it'll be like, they would play a game of like, is it terrible? Like, who thinks it's going to be terrible? Who thinks it's going to be good? And he forgot about it. He was going to like let everyone hear it or whatever it was. So for some reason or another, he ended up listening to it in his car and he liked it. It's like, oh, this rocks. He ended up working out to it. And then, they end up signing him, and that band was taken off at one point. So you hear stories like that, and I think every artist goes, they see the movies and they're like, all I gotta do is let them hear it. And it just doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen.
It just doesn't.
It doesn't happen. And like, honestly, like I think about it from my perspective, like if Ryan Tedder's a guy I would most people would love to write. If you write music, you'd love to write with Ryan Tedder.
1,000%.
He's crushing it.
1,000%.
And I've thought about it. Like, if he walked in the room right now, do I have anything in my phone that I would be willing to show him? No, because his the standard is just of my music is just not there. Mm. So I'm not going to show him anything.
Or maybe you don't think so.
Yeah. So I just think about that. Like, don't show your GarageBand demo to somebody, really go after your best quality stuff and then just release it.
1,000%. Yep, I agree with that.
And just like show people you're worth writing with by writing good stuff for yourself or for whoever your open door is. Yeah. I've written some songs with some like 19-year-old kids because that's all I can get in the room with. And I think that they're great. And like, have any of those popped off? No. But I think that song speaks for itself.
Yeah. And you never know what a song. I mean, a song could 3 years later be like, oh, wow, this song took off. Or 10 years later, an artist could be like, hey, I love this song so much, I want to do a version of it. And now that song you wrote takes off. It can happen. Yeah. But yeah, if it's not out in the world, if people aren't able to, don't know about it.
Yeah. And it's helped me become a better writer. Like being able to like let go of like, okay, I love this idea. I wrote it with a no-name artist. And that artist is like likes the song too. Dude, that's a success. And it made me a better writer because now I can move on from that idea. And I can write another one. It fills my it allows me to like come up with new ideas.
So one of my struggles I find myself in is a lot of the rooms I've gotten in, and I don't mean this to like badmouth anybody at all for trying to make a living. But what I have discovered is I've over the years, and I'm a lot more careful. It's actually gotten to a point now where my last couple singles I've actually I've self-produced, but more as like a CEO. Like, okay, I hired out this guy to build the track. I hired out this guy to play the drums. I went to this guy to cut vocals, and he's going to tune the vocals. I hired this guy to mix. More. That's kind of how I've been producing the last few. Because what has happened is I end up, wanting to write with certain people, and they're amazing writers, but they also produce. So a lot of times it's happened, and I'm a guy who I'll write a song, we'll make a little demo, and I'll live with it for sometimes months. One song over a year. Actually, I think his name is Jesus, the one we wrote together. That was sitting in a Dropbox folder for over a year before I actually put it out. I just need to live with it and make sure that it's a song that pops in my head. It's a song that that something at some point I'm like, oh, I gotta let someone hear that song. It says what needs to be said here. That needs to happen. Otherwise, I just don't know if I want to spend a lot of money to cut it. And so that's been what happens to me. So I end up a lot of times with these writers who are like, cool, man. Like I've driven, out of state to stay at someone's house for the weekend to write songs. And we write a couple of songs and they're good, but none of them are like, yo, I got to get on a stage tomorrow and let people hear this. They're just like, need to live with them for a while and see what happens. But what happens is a lot of times that same writer, he wants to make some money. So he's like, dude, man, let's, when you want to get started producing these songs, it's like, oh, I mean,
that is the bummer, though.
That
is the bummer for songwriters or track guys. Like I've written a lot of songs I've never seen a penny for. Ever.
Right. Which I get it. But I mean, at the same time, though,
and I know that you're not doing it for money. And I will say all the time, I don't do this for money. At the same time, time is valuable.
100%. And that's why I'm always up front. Like, listen, I'm not committing to anything. Yeah, if we write something absolutely killer, like I'm definitely down to have that discussion. But I never go into anything like gung-ho, absolutely, let's write a song. And because then what happens is, because I always think we're going to write a few songs and pick the best one. Nope, we write one, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, I'll send you a PayPal invoice. Wait. Yeah. Now, I'm from New York, bro. Anyone tries to go hard and fast like that, you pump the brakes. You don't go. No. I'm not like, it's like walking into a car dealership, and you're like, cool, I just wanted to test drive a car and see if I liked that car. Then I'm going to go try to save the money for it. And next thing you know, they're like, listen, we do this today. I'll take $800 off the price, and we'll get you guaranteed approval. And they won't let you leave until you sign. Something wrong there, buddy. You know, and that's where my New Yorkisms come up, where I'm like, pump the brakes, buddy. Give me a couple weeks. Let's have a conversation. Then I don't operate like that. So that's been a tough challenge for me, because maybe that's the norm and that's okay, and everyone's used to it. That's just that's not a speed I can go.
Yeah, it's hard because like the track guys, that's the only way they're making money. And then there's guys like me and Ross and who did you say earlier? Tony Wood,
yeah.
Like where it's like, well, my main thing is like the writing part. I don't make anything.
Sure.
I like the 10th Ave cut that I had a couple years ago. I think I might be up to like $30 that I've made on that song.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that's a big one. There's I have so many independent artists that have cut songs we've written. I've never made a penny off. I have a buddy, he has I think he's up to like 1.5 million streams on a song we wrote together. I haven't seen a penny of it, And again, you don't do it for money, but you also have to value your time. And so that's
oh yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm certainly not like griping that these producers want to make money. I totally get it.
Or
but that's just been a struggle for me of like, I end up in rooms with people that maybe they're not quite up front with me that this is, hey, just so you know, I'm expecting if I'm making time to write with you that we're doing this. So I'm going to produce a song for you.
Yeah.
And if, it's like, I'm always up front. Like, listen, I got no guarantees. Well, there's no guarantee you and I are going to get in here and even write a song. So with that said, like, I always try to make sure people understand that end of it, and that's just been a challenge for me because again, I can be a bit intense, yes, but I have no problem saying no to something. Like, I'm sorry. I know you were hoping and counting. These are all right songs. I can't pay you what you're asking me to pay for all right songs.
Yeah.
I'm not a guy. I don't think it's worth any artist who's independent putting, $15,000-$20,000 and putting a record out. I just don't think it's worth it. I think doing singles is the way to go. So because of that, singles are going to be a few $1,000s to put out. But when you do, it's got to be right. And for me, it's got to be a song that I can't wait to play. It's got to be a song I can't wait to, I have to feel like, man, maybe this person needs to hear this. Let me send it to them.
Yeah.
And, that's overall. Now, my last single is more of a song of that was for me because I got really into listening to the Ryan Tedder, One Republic and the pop stuff. And somebody said to me, man, you'd sound stupid making music like this. And I went, really? Well, I'm going to sound stupid.
Yeah.
Went to my buddy, hey, man, I was like, I actually wrote a song where it was more of like, it was just an idea and we chased it because we liked it. Like, this is a fun song. Let's write it. But like, yeah, I'm never going to record this. And then it just became, oh yeah, say I won't. So it became one of those for me. Like, say I won't. Well, I did it. And honestly, that was a lot of fun and I'm glad I did it. But moving forward, here I am. Like, I'm going to release a single in probably early 2022 that is literally the song is based on a prayer that I've been praying a lot lately. And there's not many songs about it, but it's definitely a song I can't wait to send to some friends because I know they need it too.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what I think is that's the hard part. Again, it's which songs to invest in, which not to. And it's just a tough place. And it's hard because I also never want to be that guy who bought his way in anything. So like hitting up a songwriter and be like, hey, how much would you charge me to write with you? That just doesn't seem like the right introduction either. Yeah. So this is so for any songwriters who might be watching or listening to this, I think that you'd agree with me that like there is not a one size fits all game plan for how to network or how to get in rights. It's just, you got to come out here and do your thing and let that naturally happen your way.
Yeah. And I guess where I was going was like for anybody listening, be okay if somebody says, no, I can't make time for that because you have to understand like there's no money being made unless you have like, unless it's like this song is sync and it's going to kill in sync, or this song is definitely going to be a radio. I know a couple guys who won't write unless that like, and they're more successful than I am, but they won't take a write unless they know that artist is looking for their single.
Right.
It's like, unless I don't even want an album cut because album cuts don't make any. That's what I'm not saying. I don't.
Sure.
I would take an album cut.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Me too.
But like, there are people who are like, I won't take a write unless it's like, this is for a single. Because and I do understand why. Like if you're like, man, I have 5 opportunities to write 5 songs this week. I can't risk it on, somebody from Oklahoma that I've never heard of that is coming here.
No, totally. I mean, like with Ross King, that was one of the things. Ross King's a dear friend. I love Ross so much. Dude,
he's the best.
And he's flat out been like, well, hey man, look, I actually, he's like, I'd have to push it off till next month because right now I need to keep my calendar open for possible like radio rights, like that's what he needs because this is what he does for a living.
Yeah.
So like, the fact that he will make time to write with someone like me, you know, and to be fair, like I feel terrible because I've written with him a bunch of times. I've never used any of it. Actually, the most recent write was a song that was an idea of mine, very Ryan Tedder-ish, kind of One Republic-y, which is just really isn't my vibe, to be honest. Like as far as what, I don't think that sound, I mean, I can do it and it can work, but it's not quite the musically where I live. So the other writer in that write, Jonathan Jackson, he cut the song, which is awesome. I'm so excited to hear it. He's so funny. He won't let me hear the song until the album drops. He knows that'll get my goat. It's like, you won't send it to me now? Why not? And he's just like, cause I know you. You gotta wait. I'm like, oh, I don't, you know. I'm just one of those people. Like, if I know you, I kind of have this expectation. Like, come on, let me hear it. Let me see it. And they're just like, no.
Yeah.
Like, that's not right. But so I'm gonna find a way to get back at him for that. But actually, he co-wrote my next single with me, so I'll do the same.
Rad.
But actually, what I might do is launch it and then block him on all social media for the day. But no, but like guys like Ross, you know, they have the heart for kind of helping the next. You know, the next guys who might be the big ones to come up, and you know, but then there's others who just don't have that kind of bandwidth, and I think again, for what I've learned is you cannot take that personally. Yeah, it's easy to take it personally. It's easy to take the word no as like, well, you don't like me. It's like, no, dude, it has nothing to do with you.
Yeah,
yeah, and that's the tough part about the songwriter world, even the artist world too. When a church says no, it's like, hey, it's not that they don't like your music. It's not that it's not good enough. They know their congregation. They know what's best for their church, and you just gotta not be like, all right, cool, and let me know if I can come help you in any way.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and that's how it is. I mean, like, yeah, every songwriter is different. Like for me, because I don't really make money doing songwriting, I can't take every write because if I have an opportunity to make money, I need to go, you know, work on construction or do merch or something.
No,
like
I'm in that season too. I got a couple people who've been. I kind of took a break from because COVID. I did a lot of writing with other people. You know, particularly trying to write for write with them for them. You know, and that's been great. I have some upcoming cuts coming on. You know, more indie stuff from other people, which is totally awesome. I mean, for me, the payment is like I'm helping them. You know, something that they wanted to say come out into the world. That's the payment. You know, it's like where 10, 20 years from now, when I'm too old to do anything, I'll be able to look back and be like, hey, look, here's songs I wrote. Here's things that I was part of helping make happen. And that to me has been the most fun. Yeah. It's like, okay, cool. Like the whole Tom Golly branding thing is cool, but look at the little bit I've been able to help here. It's been, that's been for me the most gratifying of everything I've done. Yeah. And hope we get to continue to do it. But I've had to take a little bit of a break from it for the exact reason you talked about. Like, well, I can go spend Wednesday at this dude's studio writing all day for a song that neither of us may do anything with, and we may not even write a song. The best thing at minimum, I've made a new friend out of it. But, you know, at the same time, it's like, you know, with some of my other entrepreneurial things, how many thousands or hundreds or thousands of dollars have I cost myself by going to chase that today? Yeah. So it's definitely, I totally understand. Yeah. And that's just been a tough, I had to learn it the hard way. It took a long time to get there. Yeah. You know, and it was kind of like, you know, a lot of people talk about like, oh, it's okay to take days off from work, and it is, but you know, or it costs you money though. Yeah,
and I think I had to learn it the hard way too. I like hearing that about myself, that like we were like earlier when I was like, people think that I or my band like, you know, oversold ourselves or whatever they thought, like the negative stuff that they were saying, like, but like I'll go to like DM somebody on Instagram and be like, oh, I DM'd them like 3 years ago, and I'll like read, and I never got a message back about writing, you know, and I'll read whatever I wrote to them, and I'll be like, I'm gonna not DM that person.
Dude,
I'm gonna let things lie where they lie.
I've actually gotten kind of lucky with that. I won't say who, but there was somebody they posted something on Facebook probably like 6 years ago that I just didn't like. And I basically kind of told them off. Well, I've met them and know them, and things are just different now. Seriously, 7 years later.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I go to DM them about something, and I'm like, oh, it says unread. It let me remove it. I'm like,
oh, that's awesome.
Oh, thank you, Lord. Yeah, I was like, remove. It's like, remove for both? Yes. Gone. Okay. Hey, dude, my name's Tom. But I mean, I've been about twice that's happened. Where I've been like, or like the one time it was just like reading what I wrote, you're just like, wow, this is so embarrassingly rookie. Like,
yeah, I have those like where I've written people to be like, hey, can we write sometime? And it was like, it was years ago, and like to me when I wrote them, even if I don't remember writing them, but even like I would have thought I was more tactful than what I was, and then reading it from years later and being like, I'm not gonna write that person again. I would love to write with them.
You know what I wish was a thing, and Twitter tried to make it a thing with like Twitter voice, and I just don't think it caught on because people are so weird about hearing their own voice recorded. But like, I wish sending voice notes wasn't weird to people. Mm-hmm. Like if I send a voice note to somebody I don't know, they're gonna be like, "What is this? This is creepy." But I almost rather be like, "Hey man, big fan of what you're doing," And your last song was just absolutely incredible, so well written. I love your melodies. Dude, I have some ideas. I'd love to try to work with you. Let them hear my voice and my enthusiasm and like, oh wow, this actually sounds like a person I would want to talk to. Instead, the way I type often comes across to other people not even remotely in the stratosphere of how I'm trying to sound. And that's been a huge struggle with, I mean, even when I ask people to come on the podcast, I'm kind of like, okay, I want it to be simple and nonchalant, but I also don't want to send them a novel, but I also want them to know I want them to come in studio in person. It's not a Zoom thing. I also want them to understand that, like, I'm not trying to, I don't know, I want them to understand just how chill I'm trying to be about this. I don't know how to do this. So, it's like, I've thought about maybe I could shoot a quick video. Hey man, love to have you on a podcast. Send it. But then it's like, is that creepy to them? Are they like, why is this guy sending me a video of himself? So it's so hard to connect with people sometimes. It really is, you know?
Yeah. And it's always a learning curve too. Cause I'm still there.
You're still learning.
Trying to figure it out.
I mean, and that's what life is, man. If you're not, they say, if you're not learning, you're not living, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But dude, man, it has just been awesome to see, from when I met you. I mean, and when I first met you, I want to say it was 2016, 17-ish.
That sounds about right.
And so I know you were still very much in the, like, at that time, even trying to figure it out what you're doing. Now, what we haven't really mentioned much of is, so you've actually released a bunch of songs by, under the name Tiger Run.
Yeah.
Which is, I would call it kind of like an eclectic pop kind of vibe.
Yeah. It's Tiger Run to me is what I was doing in high school. It's just, hey, this sounds fun, and I don't answer to anybody, so I'm just gonna release it.
Yeah. But I've even seen, I've seen a couple people, like I think even Bart Millard had, he had like told people, go check this band out. It's cool.
Oh, yeah.
Like so it's, but seeing music that he has shared, the tell people, hey, I love this song, check it out. He seems to like that. Like you guys almost have this retro kind of audio quality sometimes that you'll throw into a couple of tunes. That seems to be his vibe.
Yeah.
So
Tiger Run is like Beck, I think. It's like just such a like,
I'm a loser, baby.
Yeah. It's like you either like it or you're like, I don't get it.
Right.
So like I just throw stuff up. I'll be like, I haven't released anything in a while. that one.
That's awesome. That's kind of like Kevin Max's new band. It's the Sad Astronauts or something.
Yeah, I haven't heard it.
He's got this one song. Actually, I heard it. He was actually on some radio station. I forget, like 102 something in Nashville. But it's like, it reminded me a little bit of like it's similar vibe. Maybe not as like carefree. It's a little more. I guess it's a little more serious than maybe what you're trying to do. You're trying to do, but kind of, I like that old school, like it's kind of like bringing back stuff and mixing it with new stuff. It's just so cool.
Yeah,
I'm not quite there yet with what I can do musically. I'm still trying to be relevant and current with with what fits the genre of what I'm doing. But it's one day I hope to feel just free enough to be like, hey, I'll put something out.
It's fun.
It's
fun. It nothing really happens. But again, it's like a passion project.
Yeah,
I like it.
No,
So.
dude, and you know what? I bought a I bought one of your merch T-shirts a while back. And
that's right.
And
then it came, and then it was probably very late to get to you.
It was. You know what? When it came though, I rocked it, and COVID brought me. But I lost 100 pounds at the end of 2018.
Nice.
The end of 2018, early 2019, and I kept it off, and then COVID gave me back about 30 pounds. So I told my wife this, actually. I'll decree this today. Hopefully I'll have lost some weight prior or by the time this one comes out. But I told her, I was like, well, I'm not buying bigger clothes. I have too many awesome clothes that I look great in.
Yeah.
So I'm not buying bigger clothes.
Yeah.
So I'm either going to look ridiculous in clothes that are too small for me, or I'm going to get my body back to where it was to fit in these clothes or better.
Yeah.
Those are the two options. That's it. So that's it happening. And I will fit where that shirt looks awesome on me again.
Awesome.
It doesn't quite look right on me at the moment, but I love the logo. It's so simple. Tiger Run. It's awesome, man.
Thanks, man.
And for me, it's weird. Like this shirt here I have, I don't even really know what it means.
It's great.
It just looks cool, right?
Yep.
But I came up with all my own meanings for it, because it's like, that's what it means to me. So like Tiger Run is just like, man, run like a tiger, ferocious, kill anything in your path, which I don't really want to kill anything, but anything, when I'm after a goal, man, it's going to be like a tiger, bro. Like, rah,
Yeah.
That's what it means to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what it means to you.
It was one of those things where Jeff from 10th Ave, like he was the guitar player, and he and I do Tiger Run, and it was like, what should we call this thing? Because we want to release a song. And he was like, what about Tiger Run? I was like, sure. It was like, how like normally, I don't know, there have been too many conversations of like, what should the band name be? And it's like so long-winded, and like, let's think for a long time on this. It was just like, what should we call it? Tiger Run. Done. Let's go. Because like I said we should name it Prom or something like that. I was just like, let's do a random youthful word.
Yeah.
And he was like, what about Tiger Run? Sure.
So I joke around all the time. I joke around all the time coming up with like fake band names, but not like jokes, like real. Like, this would be a really cool band name. Like, I used to pick on the band Red all the time, because I'm like, well, go Google Red. What are you going to get? Mm-hmm. Not the band. Go Google Red Band. What do you get? Nothing. Mm-hmm. You can't find them. Yeah. Like, not a good choice. Well, let's find something. What's going to be like, and what's going to be something that's like, at some point, when somebody might just say it, and it's like, that's a band name. No, it isn't. Like, so for example, one idea I had was there should be a punk band, I think, would be called like Link in the Bio, or Link in Bio. Like, we're Link in the Bio. Check us out.
Yeah. Yeah, dude.
Link in the Bio. Another band idea. Actually, I came up with this at like 4 a.m. We were driving in the van. And you know how it is, man, where at 3 o'clock, 4 a.m, when you're at a rest stop, there's something that you see and you just have to have it. Yeah. You just got to buy it. I don't know why. And like, I've bought the dumbest things, stuff from vending machines, whatever it is, just because I'm like, dude, this is so cool. And in the morning, I'm like, why the heck did I buy this?
Yeah.
So I came up with a band name, the Rest Stop Souvenirs.
That's
so,
good.
Yeah.
Like
so
that.
like if I ever started like a cover band or like hey, this is just a fun, silly project, it's going to be called the Rest Stop Souvenirs. I've actually already saved the, like, I actually already made a TikTok and I already made social media and reserved it in case I ever decide to do it. But yeah, just names like that. I always thought another one is Us. Come see us.
Yeah.
We're us.
That's great. That's great.
You know, but I mean, band names are sometimes a little too overthought.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
yeah. And everybody hates their band name. Like the longer you're in a band, I remember talking to Sanctus Real one time, and I was like, what's something you regret? Like, what's something you wish you learned early on? And they were like, they said something about the fact that they hated their band name, like that they always hated it. And it was like, well, who cares?
Yeah.
I'm sure like even like I think the greatest band name, because it was like such a random, like Coldplay is a great band name only because what does that mean? Like, and yet it's like you can Google that and come up.
No, that's exactly right. You know, and I always kind of wished I was in a band name. I was a band name just because, you know, it's better than having your name and your face on stuff.
On a shirt and stuff. Yeah.
But man, so, you know, as we wrap up, man, so one, what's next for you and how can people connect with you if they want to, you know, hound you to let Bart Millard hear the next song they wrote?
Tiger Run Music or Daniel Can't Read. That's the stuff right there.
So remember, he can't read. So especially if it's a message asking him to give somebody that he works for.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I just wrote a single. I was wondering. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, absolutely. What's next? I mean, yeah, I'm starting. So during COVID, I started because I was just trying to get better at tracks. So I started an instrumental project.
Yeah.
And it's called Big Dirty. And it's like just sync music, but it's just like for fun, just to help me get better at tracks.
Yeah.
And like that's been cool. And now I'm in the process of finishing one that I've like told myself I was gonna start for years. For like since the Lybecker days. I always wanted to start like more of an acoustic based project. And I'm wrapping that one up.
That's awesome.
Called Neighbor. And that's gonna be like,
man, Big Dirty sounds like a country band, man. Like that's
I didn't name it. I
sounds
named
like a
it
Waves plugin, maybe.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's a what is it? I think it's That Sound. But like I named it President, and then I gave it to this company to like try and push for sync, and they ended up like for some reason like lost in translation, they named it Big Dirty, but that was the name of one of the plugins that I used. Oh, wow. So it's called Big Dirty now. But now I'm starting this project called Neighbor, and I'm nervous and excited because like my whole thing has always been like it's so much easier with projects to be like, I don't care about it that much. So if you don't like it, it doesn't hurt my feelings.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like that's why with the Tiger Run stuff, it's always like, oh man, it's just for fun. It's a passion project. Oh, you don't like it? It's no worries. It's easy, you know, but like Neighbor, I'm going to put myself out there a little bit more. And I'm actually like, you know, I'm going to actually try and sing. Yeah. Like sing well and like that kind of stuff.
Well, dude,
so like,
you had something that I had found once under your name, Daniel Reed, that you had put out, I thought. Maybe. I don't, and I'm pretty sure it was you. And then you showed us a demo. You came out on the road with me one time. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I felt so bad for you that day, just because we had miscommunication on what songs we were playing, and you're like trying to learn the songs.
I remember that.
But I
like that. Yeah, I like that stuff.
But you came out that time, and you let us hear a couple things. I was like, dude, you got an awesome voice, dude.
Oh, thanks, man.
You definitely should be singing more.
Thanks. So yeah, I'm starting this like a project, and it's for me, it's like a little bit more nerve-wracking because it's like, I'm not going to try and be serious with it, but I'm also like putting myself out there a little bit more than I have with like other stuff. And so,
well, you should, man. You're very good at what you do, man.
Dude,
just
thanks,
keep it up.
man.
And, you know, I'll be watching. I'm sure that, anyone who tunes into this will start following and watching. And
Rock on.
But dude, it's been awesome. And I hope to have you on again in the future. And
for sure.
Definitely it's been a great hang. I really appreciate you.
Absolutely. Same.
And all right, guys. So again, check out Daniel Reed at Daniel Can't Read on
Instagram.
Instagram for the most part is where you're at.
Yeah, I only go on. Yeah,
okay.
I never go on Twitter.
So Instagram's where it's at. So Daniel Can't Read. I promise you he can. So you can send him a message, and or go see him at the merch table at a MercyMe show.
Absolutely, man.
They still have their CDs still only $5.
Oh yeah,
man,
all of them.
That's awesome. So grab some MercyMe swag while you're at it, and get an autograph from Daniel Reed. All right. This has been the Tom Golly Official Podcast, and that's a wrap.